Oh, excuse me, sir. I didn't see you there. I'm a bit shaken. I've just come from the Arsenal courtyard. Did you see it? There were at least 1,000 people there. I don't know how to feel about this. The government just hanged a woman. She wasn't just any woman, though. She helped in the murder of President Lincoln. Can you believe that? What kind of woman could do such a horrid thing? How did it come to be, you say? Oh my, you haven't heard? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. I'm Emma. My brother-in-law, Mr. John Lloyd, rented her tavern in Surrattsville, Maryland. He testified against Mary Surratt at the trial. Let's do stop here for some coffee. I shall tell you everything. She was born Mary Jenkins in Waterloo, Maryland. Her mother was a shrewd businesswoman who was widowed when Mary was a small girl. Her mother made enough money to send Mary and her brothers to private school. Mary went to a Catholic girls' school. She became a devout Catholic. She married John Surratt in 1840. They had 3 children, John Jr., Isaac, and Anna, and they lived in Maryland, where they opened a tavern and a post office. Mr. Surratt, well, he was a drunk. He died in 1862 and left the tavern and all his debts to Mary. Mary moved to Washington, D.C. to run a boarding house they owned and rented out the tavern to Mr. Lloyd. Mary's son John Jr. was a spy for the Confederate Army, and they said she hosted the likes of John Wilkes Booth and his co-conspirators many times there. She even had a picture of him hidden in her room when the police came to the boarding house to arrest her. Mary even went to the tavern to fetch firearms to give to the men. They said in court the plot was for Mr. Booth to kill the president, Mr. Azro to kill Vice President Johnson, and Powell to kill the Secretary of State, Mr. Seward. Well, we all know what happened to our poor president. Thankfully, Mr. Azro never followed through, and Mr. Powell stabbed Mr. Seward, but he did survive. They said since this involved the president and it's during a time of war, these evil people were tried before a military tribunal. During the trial, Mary couldn't even find a lawyer to represent her. It was such an awful thing they did to our president. She said she was innocent, but many people had heard and seen her with Booth and the others. You know, they say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, but during the trial, Mary covered her face with a thick black veil. Nobody could see if she was sorry or not, or what her eyes conveyed. She didn't do herself any favors there, if you ask me. On the 30th of June, they found them all guilty and sentenced them to hang. You know, I hear Mr. Rath, who built the gallows, never thought they'd hang her, so he didn't even fashion her noose until last night. Mary's daughter Anna begged for her mother's life to be spared. She went to the judges. She tried to talk to President Johnson. She cried and cried, but no one would hear of it. Yesterday at noon they told her she was to be hanged today. They say she wept severely. She called in her priests. My, it is a hot July day today. You know it was 92 degrees by noon today. At 1:15 this afternoon, they led the 4 prisoners out to the gallows. Mary was the first one out, wearing her all black and covered her face again. Mr. Alexander Gardner was there to take pictures of the whole spectacle. When she came out, 2 soldiers helped her. They say she's been sick, but maybe it was fear today. She was put into her chair like the others, and the chair on the right. They told me that was the seat of honor in an execution. I don't know nothing about that. This is hopefully the only one I'll ever witness. They bound all their hands and feet, and after they put the nooses on their necks, they took off her bonnet and put the white bags on their heads. When they told them to stand, I heard her complain of her arms hurting. The officer just said, "Well, they won't hurt long," and her final words were asking the guard not to let her fall as she stood. 10 seconds later, Captain Rath clapped his hands. 4 soldiers of Company F knocked the supports away, and they all fell. I think she was the first to expire. I can't believe I have just seen the execution of the first woman in the United States. I am still in shock. At 1:53 p.m., they cut them down, and they were buried against the prison wall. My, it's been a day. What's that you say? Yes, you sure missed all the commotion. Just as well. May our president now rest in peace. Well, it was nice meeting you. I must be on my way now. You have a good day. The night Mary Surratt died, a mob attacked her boarding house in D.C., stripping it of anything valuable and claiming souvenirs. Her daughter Anna petitioned for 4 years for her mother's body. On October 1st, 1867, the coffins of those hanged as well as Booth's body were disinterred when the War Department decided to tear down the portion of the Washington Arsenal where the bodies lay. In 1869, Edwin Booth asked President Johnson for the body of his brother, and Johnson agreed. Mary's body was turned over to the Surratt family on February 8th and was placed in Mount Olivet Cemetery in Washington, D.C. Mary Surratt's boarding house still stands in Washington, D.C. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Over the years, her guilt or innocence has been hotly debated in books and movies, but it is widely accepted that there is ample evidence of her guilt in the conspiracy to kill President Lincoln.